the Business Savvy Singer. Hey there, and welcome to the Business Savvy Singer podcast. I'm Dr. Greta Pope, and I'm so glad that you're here. This podcast is dedicated to vocalists and to those who love them. We interview singers who are working professionally to get a glimpse into their lives and celebrate their personal journey to success. Join us weekly to learn how to move your career forward. Get tips and recommendations to help you realize the career of your dreams. You're listening to the Business Savvy Singer podcast, brought to you by theprivatemusicstudio.net, providing online education to build sustainable careers in music. Also, Eternal Wolf Music, producing audio for every need. And Greta Pope Entertainment, for the finest in entertainment. Hey there, and welcome to the Business Savvy Singer podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have with me a wonderful woman. She's a wonderful mom and wife and singer, and I'm just so excited that she's agreed to do this with me today. Her name is Arisa Kusumi Sullivan, and I am going to let her just tell us everything about herself, about her career. She's had quite an illustrious career. So Arisa, thank you for joining me. Please let our listeners know a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Hi, Greta. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm just thrilled to be here. And I'm so thrilled to have you in our community now and that we're getting to know each other. It's wonderful to have somebody of your caliber in this area. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you.
So I am Japanese American. My parents are originally from Japan. And I was born in North Carolina. So I was the first generation born over here.
Wow.
And I had really not a very musical family. My father loved classical music and listened to jazz and classical, but that was pretty much it in terms of exposure.
Yeah.
So I, began to feel called towards singing when I was about 13. There was an audition for West Side Story at my school. And I can't really explain it, but there was something inside of me that told me you have to audition for this.
Wow.
So that's how it all began. I auditioned and ended up getting the role of Maria.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
And
exciting.
I was very fortunate to have a teacher who really believed in me. Teachers are just so important in a person's life.
That's right. They're everything. The encouragement
yes,
and
exactly.
It's wonderful.
The support.
Yeah.
And so he was the one who encouraged me to get a voice teacher at that point.
Wow.
And even came to my parents' doorbell, rang it, and asked them to please let me take voice lessons because they weren't really that supportive of that idea at the time.
Wow. That is so wonderful.
Yeah,
And
so I'm lucky that I had several key people like that in my life who brought music into my life and allowed me to continue on that journey.
Yeah, and really changed the trajectory of your life. When you think about it, I mean, that's really something.
So for a while, I thought I was going to go into science or something. So I went to a wonderful school in Durham, North Carolina called the North Carolina School of Science and Math. But fortunately, there were some really fabulous music teachers there as well. And, it's funny that there were some amazing musicians that passed through that science and math school. Like, there's several famous musicians. There's a cellist that went through there that later went on to become a very famous musician. And Rhiannon Giddens actually went.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Carolina Chocolate Drops. Yeah, she's fabulous.
So kind of crazy, but they do say there's a connection between math and music.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's what it is. I often find that the very best musicians I know are also incredibly intelligent people.
That's right.
And so, I think that all of it kind of ties in together. But I was very fortunate to have that education. I had a fabulous French teacher there.
Wonderful.
And then after I was there for a while, I realized that what I wanted to pursue was music, so I applied to the Eastman School of Music.
Wonderful.
And was accepted, and that's where I pursued my vocal performance degree.
That is just fabulous. It's so exciting. So tell us a little bit about your European, well, let's start talking about Eastman and then go on from there about your European performances and so forth.
Sure. So at Eastman, I was very fortunate to study with a woman named Carol Weber. She was my voice teacher, and she was an incredible mentor for me. Not only was she a fabulous technician, but she also had the rare gift of, beautiful artistry and connection with the text and interpretation. So she really helped draw me into the whole picture of being an artist, being a singer.
Wow.
And I'm very grateful to her for that. So she actually, it was interesting, she was very much about protecting the young voice and, staying very conservative about how she trained me. So I remember wanting to just start off and sing all the big opera arias.
Queen of the night. Yeah.
And she was like, no, I don't allow my freshmen to sing opera arias.
Yeah.
So I had to start off with singing the songs and learning the song repertoire, which turned out to be a blessing, because I grew to really appreciate that art form and text and, really understanding musicianship.
Yeah.
So that was just really actually a blessing in disguise that I wasn't allowed to touch the hard stuff first. And I still teach that way to this day.
That's
that I'm
wonderful.
very protective of the young voice. And I'd rather err on the side of caution than to allow young singers to go too far and damage their young, vulnerable voice.
Absolutely. That is so true. You want your students to be able to sing for all of their lives, and sing in a healthy way for all of their lives, so it's, you have to be very careful with those young students.
Yes. So that
a puppy.
It's the reality of the COVID world.
Yes, it is the reality.
So anyway.
So what kind of dog? What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Maltese Shih Tzu who is an absolute sweetheart.
Oh.
And he's so good with people.
That's great.
But he is, he sounds like very scary when he barks.
Yeah, you know what? I have a Shih Tzu Yorkie mix.
Oh, okay.
A Shorkie. And she's the same way. She feels like it's all about her.
Yes,
So a lot of times when I'm teaching lessons, she'll sit on my lap, but then there comes a point at which she thinks, she needs the attention. So they're very cute.
She thinks this is his interview.
Yeah. You're right. That's right.
So anyway, so I worked with Carol, and while I was there, I really focused a lot on diction and language, and then I had the fortune in my senior year to work with some really fabulous coaches, like Craig Rutenberg and Armin Guzlimian. And I would say that they are the ones who directed me to my next step, because they helped me work on Leader, and I fell madly in love. And so, so that's what my next step was after Eastman was. I was wondering, well, what should I do next? Most people go and get their master's, but I decided at that point that I wanted to go to Germany and learn the German language.
Wow.
And really master a language and become fluent and, truly understand it on a deeper level.
Wow.
So that's where I went next. I decided to kind of take a detour and go over to Germany, and studied with Riri Grist.
Oh, wow.
She's a fabulous lyric coloratura soprano, African-American woman who, she was actually the Maria that Leonard Bernstein wanted to sing West Side Story, but at the time, they didn't allow African-Americans to take the lead. So he wrote the song Somewhere for her, and she sang Somewhere in West Side Story. But I was lucky to have her as a mentor at that time. I studied with her briefly, and that's what got me launched into my career. Was she suggested that I audition for an opera festival called Kammeroper Schloss Rheinsberg, which is a real launch pad for young singers.
Oh, how wonderful.
Outside of Berlin. And so that's that's what started to launch my career in that direction.
Wow. It's so wonderful, just the path that a career takes and the people that you come in contact with and the ways that they kind of launch you to that next plateau, and then that launches you to the next thing. It's wonderful.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Especially at this age, when I look back at everything, it makes you really feel, I do feel a lot of times like we're sort of meant to go on certain paths.
Yes.
And it's very important to listen to your instincts, because I feel like if you do follow your instincts and listen to signs, you will be directed on the right path.
That's right.
I was very much influenced later on in life reading Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Mm-hmm. And he very much talks about that too, where he believes that the signs are always there of where you are meant to go next, but the important thing is that you listen to them.
You listen. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Because so often we have in our minds what we think should be happening.
Absolutely.
And all the signs could be there, but we're off in a different direction because we think we know. So you're right. Listening is hugely important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is something that's been important in my life, and the times that I felt like I was really succeeding and doing everything that I was supposed to be doing was the time that I was listening to my gut and telling me what I should do next. And so I think that that's what leads these wonderful people to enter your life and show you the next path.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, that's great. So once you were in Germany, you did a lot of concert singing and opera singing there.
Yeah, so I made my debut actually that year with the Kammeroper Schloss Rheinsberg in Sweden, because they were doing a joint production. So I met some really wonderful people in Sweden, and then I went on to sing and make a debut in Germany. And the director of this opera was Stefan Piontek, and he was a very well-known director in Germany. And he took me on under his wing, and I asked his advice. And I said, what do you think I should do next? And he said, well, I think you should come to Germany, and I think you can make a career.
Wow.
Because I was at that point at a crossroads of, should I go back and get my master's, or should I just go on and try to make a career? And given that my whole calling, I really feel has been very much performance-based. I'm a performer at heart. I love singing for people and expressing and emoting. That's the path that I chose. So I packed up my bags and I went to Germany. And within a month, he called me and he said, hey, there's an audition in Chemnitz for a fest contract. Would you like to audition? And I did, and I ended up getting the role, the job.
Wow.
And so that began my career.
Wow, that is so fantastic. So how long were you there? How many years did you spend there?
I would say I was there about 5 to 6 years. Mm-hmm, I sang fest, and I sang also as a guest at other opera houses in Germany. And I really got a lot of opera roles under my belt as a result. Great. And so I really got so much experience. I really had zero experience when I started. And I had to get up there and learn roles within, a couple of weeks, and learn the staging and get out there in front of people with the orchestra. So that was very challenging, but it made me have to learn to be professional really quickly.
That's right.
And then from there, my career started to branch off. At first, it was very operatic. But as you know, my love of art song is what led me over to that side of the ocean. And so that's where I started to go down the next path, which is that as I was wrapping up my contract in Germany, I decided to do a competition, the International Robert Schumann competition. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting a prize and meeting Benita Valente, who's a famous art song singer. And she took me under her wing at that point. Oh, my
gosh. That's fabulous.
And again, I asked her, what do you think I should do next? And she said, I think you should come back to Philadelphia and study with me, because I really want to teach you some things. And then I think you could, make a career over there, too.
Wow.
And I was pretty homesick at that point. I really wanted to go back. It was difficult being Asian and living over there.
Yeah.
I encountered a lot of racism, and
Wow.
that exists everywhere. But it was difficult because I was a young woman alone over there, and so I had to make some decisions. And so I decided to come back to the States and study with Benita. And that's where I met some fabulous people. Again, I studied with her intensively in Philadelphia, and I auditioned for the Marlborough Music Festival, which was very key in my life. It was a chamber music festival started by Rudolf Serkin and Pablo Casals. And so there I learned a completely new genre of music, which was the whole chamber music world.
Wow.
And that was fabulous. And I began doing competitions. I did a few competitions like I can't think of the one at the moment, but it's in New York City. But anyway, and so it was a leader competition, and I met Dalton Baldwin at that competition. I didn't win. I was a finalist. So I tell young singers, you don't have to win.
Yeah.
To gain benefit from a competition, you actually can meet some amazing people who can change your life, and that is what happened to me.
Wow.
I was a finalist, but there was Dalton Baldwin there listening to me, and he said that he was very moved by my singing and that I reminded him of Ellie Ameling.
Oh my gosh.
So he invited me to study, well, it was actually to go participate in the Verbier Festival in Switzerland. I received everything paid for. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yes, and I got to study with Thomas Kvasthoff and Elisabeth Söderström. And it was just an amazing experience. And then he also later invited me to the Villekrolles Festival in France, where he taught with Lorraine Nubar, and we performed there as well, and I met some fabulous singers there.
Wow.
So I got to be in Provence, France. And
yeah, can't beat that, huh? That's great.
I tell people, you know, it's pretty incredible. Like, they had their own French chef, and it was run by the Schlumberger family, who was apparently, big fans of classical music.
Yeah.
And so, it was just a beautiful experience. We got to perform in Provence, and so just the places I've gotten to go in my life are pretty incredible.
It's so wonderful. I tell students all the time that music is such a great opportunity to experience other cultures, other peoples, just to broaden your horizon. It's a wonderful opportunity. You've had a tremendous career. It's just so exciting.
Thank you.
So
you
now, well, thank you. So tell me, with the opera, what is your favorite role to sing?
Well, I have to say, I was a soubrette opera singer. I was a light lyric soubrette, and of course, I think Mozart was a genius, and the music that he wrote is incredible, because not only can he be funny and comic, but he can also be so incredibly moving and human.
Yes.
And so I got to sing the Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro.
Yes.
And that was really just a sublime experience. The music, she seems so simple, and yet she gets to sing absolutely amazing music. Yeah. She gets to pretend to be an aristocrat, even though she's just a maid servant. Yeah. And I think that really moved me to be able to sing that kind of music.
Yeah, that's a great role. It's a great role.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. How about you? What was your favorite?
Oh boy. I did Pamina, Mozart again, and I loved that. Just several, Dorabella in Così fan tutte. So, I really enjoyed it. I did it for a short period of time and then moved into other styles of singing. But I love the classical repertoire, and I'm very familiar with it and familiar with the greats that have sung in that style. It's just it's beautiful music. Beautiful music.
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
So now tell me, you are now on the faculty at Rollins.
Oh, well, actually, what happened was I was on the faculty of Rollins
Okay.
for several years, about 6 years.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed working there, and working at the college level. So, yes, after I sort of had children,
Yeah.
I began to wind down my performing a little bit because it's difficult to travel with
Oh, yes.
children and
It
family
sure
in
is.
tow.
And you want to, even if the family's not in tow, you want to be with them. You want to
Yes,
be reading the
absolutely.
stories at night and participating
Yes.
in all of the
It's so
stuff.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I'm very
understand
much
that.
about being a hands-on mother.
Yes.
So I began to change and decide that I wanted to go down a different path. So I began teaching, and that's when I moved to Orlando, and I happened to, be offered this Rollins job, which was really fantastic, and I got to meet a lot of great singers. But as I was working there, I started to realize that I had another calling. So I still teach, and I very much enjoy teaching. I love it. But I am always a person who wants to have my hand in a lot of
Yes.
different cookie jars.
Yeah.
And so I began to think about a dream I had had for many, many years to start a chamber music series.
Oh.
And at the time, my friend Brad Coward was renovating the Howey Mansion out in Howey in the Hills, Florida. A 1925 historic mansion, very beautiful. And, as you know, with old architecture, there's a lot of hardwood and stone, and it sounds fantastic when classical music,
Yeah.
any kind of music is done out there. And so I began to think about how, I had had all these experiences in Europe and in Marlborough Music Festival, and just seeing the joy of being in a small, intimate environment like a palace or a chamber music hall, and how you can really touch people on a different level with that size. And so I approached him and asked him if I could start an educational series where we could introduce classical and jazz music to people, because I very much felt at that point that it was my responsibility, after having 20 some years of experience performing, that I need to pass this on to the next generation.
Yep, absolutely.
If people like us don't pass that love and appreciation on,
That's right.
it will just die out. And you
That's
can
right.
see that with the numbers of people who show up at those kinds of concerts.
Absolutely.
And I would hate for that tradition to be lost. So I felt it was my responsibility to start the Howey Mansion Music Series.
Wow.
So I started the nonprofit, and now we have amazing jazz and classical musicians come out, and we have them talk about everything in a fun way, so that they can experience and understand the background and really appreciate that kind of music.
Yes.
And we will also start a children's program called Mansion Music for school field trips to help them be introduced to that kind of music as well.
That is so wonderful. There are so many schools that don't have music now. So for them to be able to take a field trip in their science class or their some other class and come and hear music like that is just fantastic.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
So that's a really big, important priority in my life.
That's great.
And meanwhile, I'm still singing and performing, and for me, like I said, I'm a performer. In all honesty, I've started to think about this. I think it doesn't really matter in what way I'm performing. I just really like performing.
Yeah, you just
I
enjoy
like to
it.
emote and express,
Yes.
whether it's acting or singing or other genres.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm really open to finding different fun ways to express myself.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, you are absolutely fantastic. I've seen video of you and just,
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh.
Thank
Beautiful
you so
voice,
much.
beautiful presence, beautiful lady. You just
Thank
are
you.
really, you have it all. So it is
Thank you. You're
fantastic.
very kind.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I remember, well, I will first tell our listeners that you are the president of the Central Florida chapter of the National Association of Teachers of Singing.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
I, about a year ago, became a member of that organization. And I will never forget my very first meeting. And I knew no one. And you would ask me to stand up and introduce myself because I was new. And when I left, you hugged me. And I was so moved by that. I mean, that is just I could just see that you have a beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank
that
you.
is, very, very lovely.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've evolved over the years, where I'm sure you had the same. When you have old school teachers, they're really mean.
You're right.
There was a different way of teaching back then, where you have lots of, critique. I'm glad, because it made me a better singer, and, I really learned a lot. I learned humility.
Yeah.
But as I get older and I teach people myself, I'm starting to realize that, there's enough critique, there's enough negativity in the world that people have to deal with, that I would like to try to be the light in their lives, where I can give them inspiration, I can give them positivity, and see what's important in life, and really find the joy in what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you're so right. When I was in grad school, I studied at Indiana with the great Eileen Farrell, which was just really thrilling.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting in a school situation like that. It's always, this note was a little this and that. You need to do a little more of this and a little less of that. And so when I got out into the world, I thought, oh, I'm terrible. I'm not very good. And then I got out into the world and I thought, I think I might be able to manage having some kind of career. But it kind of erodes your confidence.
Yes.
So it's lovely, to have a teacher like you that is encouraging, and I try to be that as well, very encouraging, and, you can do this, and, you sound great, and, all of those things, because it's so important. It's important.
Yes, I've definitely, I think I was shaped by the fact that I have crashed and burned before. Yeah. I have lost my confidence. I have had extreme anxiety, and really had to kind of rise up from the ashes.
Yeah, that's right.
And what I found ended up helping me to come back to music when I left it for a while was finding the spirituality, the yoga, the meditation, finding something higher in what we do.
Absolutely.
That's what led me back to it. And so now I have a very different perspective, where I'm a very particular teacher. I'm very strict. But you can do that in a nice, positive way.
That's right.
Where you're not stripping somebody of their essence and their, specialness.
Yes, you're right.
They need to retain that.
Yeah, you're right. And that's such an important thing. And I think that's where the area of teaching has evolved over the last number of years. It's you want your students to be good, but I find that they do better when I'm encouraging them.
Yes.
Because they believe that they can be wonderful, and then they want to be wonderful, and they work hard to do that. So it's great.
Yes. And people try to, when they see that you believe in them, they try to reach that point.
That's right.
That higher point that you see them having as potential.
That's right. That's right. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Well, it has truly been my pleasure to know you over this time, and I plan to get to know you a lot better and spend time with you and have fun with you and so forth, because you're great.
Thank you.
You're great.
I can say the same about you. I'm really excited to develop a friendship with you and get to know you better, because you do so many wonderful things out of your studio and all the broadcasts and the workshops and things. So thank you.
Thank you, Arisa. So tell us now, where can people find you online?
So I have a website. It is www.arisakusumi.com. And so that's my main singing website. And then if you want to find out about the Howey Mansion Music Series, that is at www.howeymusicseries. That's HOWEY musicseries.org. And there you can also read about the series as well.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so very much for being with us today. What a treat for our listeners. Thanks, Arisa.
Thank you so much, Greta.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
The Business Savvy Singer podcast is brought to you by the privatemusicstudio.net, Eternal Wolf Music, and Greta Pope Entertainment. Let us know if you know of a singer who is having great success in the music business. We'd love to share their story and their journey on this podcast. Send your emails to info@gretapope.com. We've had a great time with you today. See you next time on the Business Savvy Singer podcast. The Business Savvy Singer.